Hello everybody, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today we're going to continue the exploration of burnt umber, white gouache, and black gouache. In front of me I have a quarter sheet of Stonehenge aqua. No, I'm sorry, not a quarter sheet, an 8x10. So a smaller size here. And I just saturated it with water. It's stretched out, so I'm just laying it flat. And now I'm going to go to town with this. I'm going to put together an imaginary scene. We'll have a horizon. We'll have a foreground. We'll have reflections. And then after we get the kind of tonal values in place, we'll do a dry off and accentuate spots with our gouaches. Part of me is tempted to experiment with seeing like if I could use the white gouache for animals and figures, or if I could use it for potentially smoke or fog. But I'm worried about having opacity over the transparency and making it push too far forward for those objects. But we'll see. Just gonna go wet and wet right up here, and then I'll push around. Might be time for a new paper towel. These shop rags just work really well for me. The blue rags that you could pick up in like the automotive section of a store. Really good. Bring a little bit of reflection down. I'll have to stretch again. May come back a second time into the sky. Let's grab the card. I've been looking at some constable paintings lately, and I'm working on a sketch currently of one. I'm not filming the process for that one, but it's just kind of a little process of what I've been working with. And I'm sure this is somewhat influenced by the one I'm looking at. A little bit of buildings interspersed throughout. Just a simple scrape. I may come in with a brush and put a little bit more detail in, but kind of playing it by ear. Right now I'm just not getting good stretch of the paper that I would like. There we go. I'm going to grab the rigger and lay in some strong pigment. Get some more pigment on the hake, the foreground. Everything's still essentially wet and wet. Some foliage that's higher up, some foliage on the side right here. Try to obtain a little bit of texture. Darken up this little shoreline. Create a tree grouping on the side to stop the eye from going off the page. Scrape out some textures there. All right, before I do a dry off, see if there's anything I want to kind of adjust or pull out. Let's see. It's a little too dark, but I want some variation in here, and I'm just not seeming to get that. There we go, some a little bit loose marks. Okay. Bring some of that white down to the reflections. Okay, let's leave it at that. I'm gonna pause and do a dry off. Okay, so we just did a dry off. Now I'm gonna play around with the rigger, and then I'm gonna play around with a little bit of the black gouache. And we're gonna see what happens. Reflections. A little bit more texture. All right. So far it's just still burnt umber. grab a little bit of water on the hake, just a teeny bit. We're going to grab some of that black gouache. I'm going to use that to kind of push some elements closer to us and add a little bit of depth in these locations. Okay, let's scrape that. Try to put a little bit of accent marks on these buildings. That are sitting amongst these trees. Maybe grab a little bit of black, put in front of that, make it sit back a little bit more. Add a layer in here. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do a brush clean off. Grab some white gouache. Looks like I grabbed some black as well, but that's fine. We'll get a little bit of gray in the sky. Kind of dry brushing it. Pick up a little bit of spots. I want a little bit more white gouache. And then now I want to experiment with using the white gouache for essentially figures and smoke and whatnot. So I'm just putting little birds in. A little bit too much of a blobby bird. I'll let it turn into part of the cloud. Okay. Hake, gouache. This is just for a water effect. Probably, dang, I still have black on the brush. Let's see. Add some white accents. I'm just curious, so you could see how that affects the overall image. Let's try a bit of smoke rising up. A little bit of water. Okay, so that's what it looks like kind of straight from the tube and then watered down around it. Let's try a white cow. See how that winds up looking. Give the cow a black head. Mix a little bit of burnt umber. Try a brown cow. Just kind of putting marks in, really not too eloquently or anything like that. Just more playing with how it, I guess the cohesiveness would be the word. It's more of just a blob, a blobby cow. Looks like the blobby bird. Everything's kind of blobby today. I should have done a little side sketches for these guys, but I feel like they don't sit in the scene. So I'll put a tree over them. I'll get that white off of the brush. Let me pause it. So I think for sketching purposes, it's acceptable. Kind of, you know, it was a 15-minute, 18-minute painting, experimenting with those two. However, I feel like the cows and some areas are a little too unrefined. At least that's just me, you know, thinking, you know, it's right after work, so because my mind is still in work mode. So I'm just going to play around with some different textures. Here's the squirrel mop, and play around with some tonal variations in spots, and we'll see how that livens things up. That. I'll play around with our cows a little bit more. think one of the issues is I dove right into the cow at a side profile and without having a lot of other cow elements around, and that's what kind of got me. And like I said, not sketching a cow beforehand. But I think I'm going to leave the experiment at this. The fog effect was pretty cool. The more dry brushing of the white gouache into the sky was pretty interesting. Well, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.